Boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest Metropolitan pregame segment as the Mets are bound to kick off a two-game set here, a Subway Series matchup against the New York Yankees in Flushing, Queens at Citi Field. In today's show, we're going to go over everything that you guys and gals need to know about tonight's matchup between David Pearson and Gerrit Cole, how these lineups faring against each other, how the Yanks been as of late versus how the Mets have been, along with some key updates on unfortunate news headlined by Starling Marte now out for a good period of time with injury. Ben Gamel gets the call. Why did the Mets choose Ben Gamel over, say, Trace Thompson and other options at the AAA level? And what is the latest on Kodai Senga? All that and then some is what we'll be breaking down in today's live show, along with giving you guys the best odds and lines imaginable with our amazing sponsor, the best sportsbook out there at BetUS, that I highly implore you all to check out. Of course, bet responsibly by clicking the link down below. That way you too get a 125% bonus on not your first, not your second, but your first three deposits for all your sports betting needs. And tonight, the New York Metropolitans are the money line underdog versus the Yankees being the favorites. So if you want to sprinkle some dollars down, if you want to have some Mets bias, by all means, go ahead with the Mets currently at plus 125 on the money line, at plus 1.5 there on the spread versus the Yankees currently sitting at minus 140. So if you guys are planning to get in on the action, get in on some betting tonight here, make sure you do so with our great friends at BetUS. But everybody watching live here on both YouTube and Twitter, thank you all so much. Hit that like and subscribe button as you first chime in. Greatly appreciate it. If you guys are chiming in here on Twitter, hit that like, that follow button, that retweet button. But no, as always, I'll only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube. And thank you all so much in advance for hitting said buttons. Grant says, where is Shay? I came here for Shay. Shay right now is chilling out the moment, but Shay's doing fantastic. Appreciate you asking, Grant. Hope you're doing awesome, my man. Happy to have you in here. Max, how you doing? Happy to have you in here. Great mod. As always, Nushima, great member. Let's see, Ben, William, Daniel, D, great member. Everybody first chiming in. Thank you all so much for that. Yoshima with the $5 donation says, my idea of calling up Gamel is going to be a competition to who stays longer term, him or DJ Stewart. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's great thought process by you, Yoshima. Again, there are reasons why the Mets called up Ben Gamel over Trace Thompson and over some other options that they currently have there available in the minor leagues. But just want to emphasize this already, folks, in case you guys and gals didn't see our content from yesterday, highly implore you all to do so at some point while there's still some shelf life before this Mets-Yankees Game 1 game starts off this evening. I did a series preview with my man and co-host of the Bridging the Gap podcast, Patrick Hennessy. He was the Yankee representative. I was the Mets representative in our Subway Series discussion yesterday. Check out that live show if you haven't, along with checking out my recent content on the rumor front. We talked a bit on early Mets trade deadline predictions, both live in the Bleacher Report app and available here on YouTube that you guys saw yesterday too. A lot of comments on that one as well. Happy to deep dive them in the coming days here and really see what you guys have to say about what the Mets plan to do leading up to said deadline. But again, appreciate the donation. Thank you so much for that, Grant. Let's see, Yoshima, appreciate the love as always. Waldo, thank you every single one of you for the kind words, folks. But all right, let's get this discussion going. Let's talk it up. Let's talk about these Metsies. Let's talk about the latest news, because Starling Marte, as we know, will have missed the past couple of games with injury for the Mets, the past couple of days rather. Missed a game at least. Of course, Mets had off day. Got the MRI in the off day, and unfortunately, the MRI did not show anything too positive here for us Mets fans and wanting Starling Marte to stay in the lineup. According to Carlos Mendoza, Starling Marte officially has a deep bone bruise and will not be able to do any baseball activity for 2 weeks. He will be out a bare minimum of a month, so one of the hottest bats in this Mets lineup, along with an offense, which has been number one in Major League Baseball, number one in the National League over the stretch throughout the month of June, leading the way with an 843 team OPS so far in the month of June. Marte, who of course is a defensive liability, but a plus on the offensive end this season, is now going to be on the shelf for at least the next month. So I'm wishing a speedy recovery, obviously, for Marte, of course, but this one stings a lot for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to explain them right now. One, losing Starling Marte hurts a lot because of the consistent production he's had with the bat. Even though, yes, he has been a glaring hole of a liability in right field when not using that cannon of an arm, he is still someone that has been fantastic with his hitting, going gap to gap, hitting those singles as well. He has been getting on base at a great clip, and it's been awesome to see Marte have a nice bounce back year offensively like he had in 2022 versus a down 2023, dealing with ailments, dealing with those bad hips, and everything else that those injuries unfortunately entailed. But now Starling Starling Marte out with injury for this period of time, this hurts the Mets too, to a degree, I'd argue, with their vision leading up to the MLB trade deadline. You went from a Starling Marte where he really could have kind of helped guide your decision as to what outfielder, if at all, you may part with by the deadline. There's the Mets entering today before the Starling Marte news had an abundance of outfielders where they don't necessarily need all of them. They would like to allocate assets in other areas of more team need by the deadline. So when you have an outfield configuration excluding Brandon Nimmo and Starling Marte of Harrison Bader, Tyrone Taylor, and DJ Stewart, naturally you're led to believe that one of those guys at minimum could be expendable as part of a separate deal for the Mets, either to acquire more immediate bullpen help if need be, or different aspects of the lineup that again is more appealing to David Stearns, of course, and Mr. Carlos Mendoza. But now that Marte's out, you're going to be needing to play Tyrone Taylor most days. You're going to need to play DJ Stewart a bit more than you were initially thinking. And now it really feels like that this is kind of a do or die situation, especially in the case of DJ Stewart, because Ben Gamel getting the call up. One, I'm very happy about the call, and I'm going to explain to you all why the Mets made the decision to go with Ben Gamel today over Trayce Thompson. Because if you know Trayce Thompson from spring training, the guy was raking, and this season in AAA, he's been hitting the long ball plenty. But what's the bigger thing here to break down in regards to not only Trayce Thompson, but Ben Gamel and everything in between? That is what we're about to do, everybody. But before I do, I just want to make sure that we're all properly set up live here on Twitter, and we are. Sweet, looking awesome. Thank you guys and everybody that's first chiming in there. Always means a lot, everybody. Let me change this 1 second. Let me put this here. And also, folks, big question for you all, for all my live viewers here in the chat as well. Let me know in the comments. I got to know for you guys, what is your Subway Series prediction for tonight's game? How do you think the Mets will fare versus Yankees? Who do you think's going to win and why? Let me hear it in the chat, as always, in the comments down below for the people that watch us on replay as well. Thank you all so much in advance for doing so. But as we take a look here at Ben Gamel, why the Mets decided to go with the veteran outfielder for the call versus a fellow veteran outfielder there in Trayce Thompson, it is as follows, everybody. Trayce Thompson this season, of course, the famous brother of Klay Thompson, the Splash Bro, or about to be the former Splash Bro there with the Golden State Warriors. Trayce, the 33-year-old, has been commanding right field more often than not this season here that we've seen for the Syracuse Mets. He's played all over, though. He has 16 home runs, 44 RBIs, a 228 average, a 300 OBP, and an 800 OPS. Okay, so you all heard those numbers, right? 16 home runs, 44 RBIs, 6 stolen bags, a 228 average, a 300 OBP, and an 800 OPS at the AAA level. Mind you, this is the same Trayce Thompson that isn't far removed from like 2 years ago, balling out with the Dodgers in a very limited sample size, and then really hasn't been that player much since then when he has had some major league opportunity over the past couple of years. Versus Ben Gamel, 32-year-old outfielder who has ties with David Stearns, as Ben Gamel has been a part of other organizations of which Stearns has been a part of, most famously, of course, the Milwaukee Brewers there. But Gamel, who is a left bat, versus you're going to have a righty bat there in Trayce Thompson, who can play basically all outfield positions, even though he's not going to do it at, say, an elite, truly proficient level. He can handle his own for the time being. Ben Gamel this season, 7 home runs, 24 RBIs, a 314 average, a 423 on base percentage, and a 961 OPS on this season in Syracuse at the AAA level. What does this mean? Ben Gamel, by all accounts, is the better option. Why? He is, again, a low bar, but a superior defender. He hits from the left side of the plate and honestly forces the hand a bit, as Yoshima mentioned earlier in the show, of someone like DJ Stewart. With DJ, of course, being, so boom or bust, you're either going to get a walk or a home run with DJ. It feels like there's no in between, right? And that's for a guy in a limited sample size that is not going to play much outfield because he profiles best as DH, versus Ben Gamel, a lefty bat who's hitting for great high contact, similar to Jose Iglesias at the AAA level. This is why the Mets made the decision. Trayce Thompson, is he a better power hitter? Yes, no one's arguing that Trayce Thompson is a better power hitter than Ben Gamel. But what is Trayce Thompson, unfortunately, currently looking at? He's a guy that is barely able to hit well right now at the AAA level with his contact. If you want a short-term option right now off the bench until you decide to make, say, a move to acquire a player that the Mets may consider now with Marte out for a month, we'll soon find out. I think internally they'll be fine, honestly, but they have a revolving door of options right now, a rotating one rather, and Gamel has plenty major league experience too, and unlike Trayce Thompson, has been a major league bat, a right around a league average bat, for the majority of his career. Exclude last season because it was only in 6 games with the Padres, because you really can't account that for anything, which he batted 200 with a 25 WRC plus. But the years prior there with Pittsburgh, 96 WRC plus, 99, 94, 87, 107, 99. So again, he's been around a league average batter. Of course, league average is 100 for the WRC plus scale, versus, again, someone like Mr. Trace Thompson, who's already big swing and miss at the AAA level. The Mets have their big boppers in the lineup already. They already have plenty of options to turn to seek those doubles and those home runs. I don't really think that they need to go out of their way here for a Trace Thompson to try to maximize that when you're going to get a lot more potential boom or bust potential right now, versus a Ben Gamel who's likely going to put the ball in play better. He's going to put the ball in play more often, which is going to create more offensive opportunities, and is going to be batting from the left side, something that the Mets lack there a little bit and would like to see. Honestly, again, outside of DJ Stewart, it's not like the Mets have, these immense amount of lefty options off the bench, especially after losing Omar Narvaez, because the schmuck was just too terrible that you couldn't warrant him staying on the roster whatsoever. So that is why the Mets have made the decision that they did. So Starling Marte, as we know, who's absolutely tearing the cover off the ball this season. Really, again, Marte's bat has been a revelation, to say the least. It has been awesome to see the type of production that Starling's had this season, but unfortunately, with the defense being as inconsistent as it's been, we haven't been able to put him on the pedestal as much as we would have liked, especially me with Marte, because he's frustrated me as all hell at times with his bat. But the offense, though, again, 7 home runs, 38 runs scored, 30 RBIs, 12 stolen bags in 66 games, a 278 average, a 328 OBP, and a 416 slug for 116 WRC plus. I mean, look, it's not perfect, but I'll gladly take that from Marte. So you're losing that production for at minimum the next month, probably longer here, and now you, again, call up a guy in Ben Gamel as your potential option. You call up potentially other guys too in the coming days if, say, you don't want Gamel for certain matchups. You get creative with it, and this is the time too where I think David Stearns will once again shine. You know how we just saw David Stearns go out and acquire Luis Torrens, funny enough, from the Mets foe tonight and the Yankees for just $100,000. And Luis Torrens quickly won the backup job over Tomas Nido because the guy was brilliant. Now that he's back from the paternity list, also, he's back up. Joe Hudson was DFA, designated for assignment. So wishing Hudson the best if he does land anywhere else than Syracuse. But it made sense why the Mets made this decision, and I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. And I think the athleticism alone with someone like him is appealing. D's asking about Drew Gilbert. Drew Gilbert, Mets top outfield prospect, is not going to return to the Syracuse lineup until middle of July at absolute earliest, as he's coming back from a completely torn hamstring. So just some thoughts there in case you guys were not aware of that, the same way that you might have not been aware about what I'm about to explain to you all. Kodai Senga, remember him? Remember the Mets Japanese ace? We all love the ghost work himself. Latest reports have indicated Kodai Senga could be having a rehab assignment begin as early as next week. Yes, you heard that correctly, folks. Kodai Senga, who already had a live bullpen the past day or so, will have another live bullpen this week. And if all goes well, he's expected to begin his rehab assignment, probably starting, of course, there in single A for the Metsies, as he works his way back to, of course, getting to the major league level for the Mets at some point post All-Star break. Alex Ramirez, that some people were asking about, has been absolutely putrid so far this year in the minor leagues. After a great spring, after a horrendous year in pro last year, Ramirez now moved up to the Rumble Ponies, has not fared much better. He has been swinging the bat decent as of late. He's had a couple hits here or there in the month of June, but overall, Alex Ramirez has had yet another underwhelming season at the pro level. Not in chance in hell he's being called up anytime soon here by the Metsies, which is unfortunate, but that's just the reality of the situation at the moment. And again, everybody for chiming in live on a replay, happy to have you in here, folks, as we're breaking down the latest in Mets land, as the Mets are matched up for their Subway Series matchup against the New York Yankees tonight, Flushing, Queens, and this is going to be a fun one, to say the least. Bring up Acuna. I'm in favor of bringing up Acuna. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just telling you, when it comes to Mr. Luis Angel Acuna, the Mets need to, of course, make a decision with Jeff McNeil before they bring up, of course, the young, exciting prospect. And speaking of the young, exciting prospect, I know Joe DeMayo, who of course is doing his thing with his Mets podcast for SNY right now. They're in attendance at Citi Field for the Subway Series matchup, so make sure to check out his thoughts on the series preview after you guys listen to me, because Joe does a fantastic job. Him and Connor are like great people, love them in this space. But Joe just came out with his recent, updated Mets top 30 prospect rankings, and he does have Acuna a little bit lower in the order versus him, being that true top 4, top 5 prospect, and it makes sense, even though Luis Angel is having a great summer for the most part. Awesome start to June here, has been having a really strong past number of weeks. Acuna is a guy that, again, the Mets are not going to bring up until they have made their Jeff McNeil decision. And now let's talk about Jeff McNeil. Acuna is sucking. He's actually not at all. Acuna is batting right around 270 with over 700 OPS. Doesn't have the power, but certainly has the contact, the gap to gap, and the strong defense, along with amazing speed on the bags when everything's going right. Acuna is a very athletic young man. Again, a shell of what his brother is on the power front, but certainly not a shell of his brother when it comes to the pure athleticism that he has as an athlete. So I'm very much so looking forward to see what Acuna can bring to the Mets when it's time to call him up. I also see, folks, we're getting close to 50 likes in the live show. Thank you so much for that. Continue to smash those buttons. If you guys could help us get to around 100 likes by the end of the live show, that'd be greatly appreciated. And again, thank you all so much in advance for doing so. But let's talk briefly here now about what is going on with the Metsies and as they match up here against the New York Yankees, because we talked about Senga, we talked about everything that is going on with this team with all the latest updates here right now. So let's get into Jeff McNeil in these lineups, because as you see, let's start with the New York Yankees here. Let's start with the Bronx Bombers. Of course, the Yanks have won just 3 of their past 10 games, got absolutely steamrolled by the Baltimore Orioles in 2 games out of 3, lost their series against the Atlanta Braves. They just have not been playing their best baseball, but they're hoping to turn things around with Garrett Cole's second start here, and Cole looking for his first victory of the season. Garrett, of course, a Cy Young Award winner, and a Kermit to many, including myself, is matching up against David Pearson and the Metsies, as Anthony Volpe, the young, exciting shortstop, of course, batting leadoff with a 742 OPS, very similar to Lindor in leadoff at the shortstop position. It's really cool to see those two go head-to-head tonight. Juan Soto, future New York Metropolitan, said many Mets fans, including myself, going to ruffle some feathers with Yanks fans, even though that, yes, I know that the only chance in El Soto comes here is if we give him quite an overpay. I've grasped that reality. Trust me, I probably have known a lot more about Soto than any other Yanks fan, for that matter, that's watching this, considering us Mets fans have been glued on him since he was called up as an 18-year-old with the Washington Nationals and winning a World Series, basically his first time out there in 2019 or so. Yes, we know quite a bit about Juan Soto, and that's why we idolize him as much as we do. He's batting second with a 994 OPS on the season, commanding right field. Aaron Judge is doing Aaron Judge things. If you looked at Aaron Judge's line right now, you would think it's a 162 season. Already roughly 30 bombs or so, 70-plus RBIs. He has been on an absolute tear. One of, if not the best player in all of Major League Baseball. Over 1,000 OPS, commanding center field. Gleyber Torres and Jeff McNeil, what do these two guys have in common? They're both absolutely washed second basemen for major market teams in New York sports. That's as simple as that. Gleyber and Jeff, they have reached well past, hitting their peaks in their careers, and two guys that are both expected to be off these respective rosters by the end of the season at the absolute latest right now. Torres with a 634 OPS, batting fourth somehow for your New York Yankees. Alex Verdugo, Red Sox turned Yankee here. He ain't Babe Ruth, but he's something. Alex Verdugo with a 708 OPS, commanding left field. JD Davis, remember him? Remember, call 1-800, JD Davis, 1-800 runs now, something along those lines. Yeah, call JD Davis. Wait. 877 runs now? Yeah, I think that's what it was. JD Davis, who, of course, is excited to swing right through 92-mile-per-hour heaters right down the pipe, is probably going to hit a bomb this series, considering he's facing two lefties in Peterson and Manaea. He bats 6 and commands first base with a 670 OPS, and was just acquired for Mr. Groshans, the once coveted prospect, now far from it, being dealt to the A's after being part of the Yankees and the Blue Jays organizations. DJ LeMahieu, batting 7th that we see here. LeMahieu with a 465 OPS. Brutal. Again, DJ, very similar to Jeff McNeil, once a contact cane, far from it now as they're not getting any younger, commanding third base, batting 7th. Jahmai Jones, that I guarantee very little of you Mets fans know about, and that's okay. Jahmai, however, with an 864 OPS, getting some playing time with the injuries, especially to Giancarlo Stanton, who's going to be out with a period of time, unfortunately. He's commanding 8th there in the DH position. Jose Trevino, Jose Trevino, we see, is commanding 9th here today, and he's with a 711 OPS on the season. What is with the chat sometimes? I don't know what it is, but it happens. That's okay. We're going to give him a 24 timeout, and then we'll go from there. It's like, I just don't understand what the chat is, what is going on here. Hold on. I got to catch up just for a second. Why was there someone just spamming go pee? Like, what? Like, what are we doing here? Exactly, Amy. Exactly. All right. Now to reel back in this one, that's what you got with the Yankee side of things, of course, on what they're looking lineup-wise tonight. For the Mets, we have a lineup that I like. Would have liked it a lot more with Starling Marte. Would have liked this team a lot more with Shoutouts, Foley, and Edwin Diaz in my bullpen, but God forbid for wanting nice things. Here we have the Mets batting leadoff, the best leadoff hitter in Major League Baseball since batting leadoff, and that's not really an exaggeration. That's a fact. Francisco Lindor with a 743 OPS, commanding first. And by commanding first, I mean the one hole, not, of course, first base. And at shortstop, Brandon Nimmo with a 788 OPS is batting second and commanding left field. Nimmo, of course, has been turning things on the 2-hole since, having a really rough job there in the 3-hole this past month. JD Martinez continues his tear and is looking out for blood against a guy he knows very well during his time with the Boston Red Sox, that being against Guerrero. And that is, of course, Julio JD Martinez with an 870 OPS at commanding DH and has been one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball since the month of June began. Pete Alonso with a just under 800 OPS. Pete has found himself. He looks strong in the road trip, all things considered. He is, of course, commanding first base. Francisco Alvarez, El Troll himself, is batting 5th at the catching spot. 805 OPS for Alvarez, who's really been turning on with the offense this past week. Tyrone Taylor, who, of course, was red hot in the first month of the season, has cooled off quite a bit since then because, of course, he's a guy that's best in limited sample sizes. Tyrone now with increased playing time. We'll see how he does getting the start tonight against Garrett Cole and the Yanks. Again, Tyrone Taylor, a very fastball-heavy hitter, so be on the lookout as Cole will not only try to utilize that hitter, but then work his breaking pitches to get that swing and miss here against Tyrone. 630 OPS and commanding right field. Mark Vientos at 870 OPS, commanding the hot corner. That is my third baseman, baby. Jeff McNeil with a sub 600 OPS. Why is Jeff starting? I asked myself the same question. The simple answer, if you want to base it on the numbers, Jeff McNeil, of course, has himself a solid campaign against Garrett Cole throughout his career versus Jose Iglesias does not have favorable numbers. But the silly thing about basing things on splits of the past is, and we're basing production of the past on how these guys are going to perform now, then we need to keep that mentality that, okay, Jeff McNeil should be playing every day because, he was a batting champ in 2022 and he's had so many great seasons and stretches that he's going to get out of this. The problem is it's been basically a year and a half plus now where he hasn't gotten out of it for the most part of any significance. And McNeil, again, is not a guy that I think deserves to be starting today, but because he's on that contract extension, he is starting over Jose Iglesias. Kind of sad considering the Mets quite literally had their entire team wearing shirts today that said OMG, because that is the name of the song Jose Iglesias recently came out with. And you guys can check that out wherever you get, of course, your music on YouTube, Spotify, wherever. Jose Iglesias, though, who's now a fun, awesome singer and musician, the team was repping him with his own merch throughout pregame today. It's a damn shame to see that all put on a pedestal, and yet that same exact man is not in tonight's starting lineup. Harrison Bader, of course, a former Yankee, now photo them. He wants to kick some teeth in. He's ready to whip some ass. 704 OPS, and I expect some clutch hits in this series, and hopefully some awesome defense from Mr. Harrison Bader, who I'm sure will be commanding everywhere there in center field. Then we got David Pearson, of course, with a 3.97 ERA and a 5.64 expected ERA. David Pearson, who was very sharp in his last outing out here, went from looking like a true ground-out pitcher throughout his first couple starts to more of the 2022 David Pearson that we saw in his last start. More swing to miss emphasis. I'll be curious to see what he does in tonight's matchup against the Yankees, because surely on paper, as we know, the Yankees are the more favorable team. Garrett Cole is the more favorable matchup. Everything should lead you to say the Yankees will win this series and will win tonight's game. But we cannot discount how the Mets have been playing here in the month of June, how much they have been riding high, and how they always tend to have entertaining games be played against the Yankees, even when it's lopsided in the talent level between the two respective teams. So I'm very excited and looking forward to these matchups in particular here. And for the Yankees, of course, I think Juan Soto is going to have a masterful series. Even the lefty-lefty matchups I don't think are going to hurt him much. If Peterson or Manaea ain't anything, I'm sure they will, unfortunately. Soto's going to eat them up for breakfast. Aaron Judge, same applies. I expect that 2 and 3 in the batting order for the Bronx Bombers to absolutely tear it up this series. We just have to hope that them alone were able to kind of seclude from the rest of the roster and really pound against guys like Glaber, Verdugo to a degree. Get JD Davis swinging and missing on those damn heaters he's been swinging and missing on his whole damn career. DJ LeMahieu is just a body. Do not allow him to get to first base. Jemiah Jones, I don't need to add anything there. Jose Trevino is solid, don't care. Get the job done. This Yanks lineup is honestly pretty damn vulnerable right now when you get out of that three-headed monster there to begin the ball game. Similar to when we played the Dodgers. You know, if you get past Mookie, when you get past Shohei, when you get past Freddie Freeman, you have a good chance to win. And I think in the case of the Mets here right now, they absolutely have the chance to win. And again, I don't favor them with this pitching matchup right now, but Garrett Cole will be on, of course, a pitching limit. So even if he looks great, he might not go past 5 or top 6 innings tonight, hopefully, and that's where the Mets can find themselves pouncing. For David Pearson, we ideally need the Mets to have at least 5 to 6 innings from him today, because with a depleted bullpen, after losing Edwin Diaz, you're down a bullpen spot for a good stretch of time. And of course, after losing Sean Reed-Foley, you're without some very important guys currently in your bullpen for a good stretch, including now this 5-game homestand that officially starts today. Some of the chat says, bro, you are insane. Ben, enlighten me. What is with the remarks, guys? If you're going to talk shit, at least tell me what I'm doing wrong, unless you were talking about someone else in the chat. If so, then I apologize. Let's see. Oh, there's a back and forth going on, so maybe I'm missing it. Steven in the chat says, what happened to the international prospect Guerrero? Haven't heard anything from him. Did he quit? He didn't quit. He's very young. You're not going to really hear much about those international prospects the Mets sign throughout their first year or so, unless they really tear the cover off the ball. You'll probably hear more about him in the next year or so in regards to that is, of course, another Vladdy Guerrero connection, if you will. I remember us doing the coverage on that over this past year, and that was a lot of fun. Another exciting prospect in the fold for the Mets, even though Giovanni Rodriguez was the big signing in the international free agent signing period back this past January, the catching prospect, whereas Guerrero, yes, he's connected in the Guerrero family with Vladdy and all of them, junior and senior. However, he's not a top prospect at the level of what Giovanni Rodriguez was, just from when they were initially signed, at least. Almighty, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. He was talking about someone else. Gotcha. Yes, we will, of course, will be live for post-game coverage, everybody. What do you think? I'm just here to do pregame? What's the matter with you? Yes, we'll be live for post-game coverage, absolutely, everybody. But all in all, excited to get into tonight's matchup between these two teams. Really looking forward to see how the Subway Series is going to entail for us all. We will, of course, be live right after the conclusion of tonight's game. It'll either be myself or with a co-host. Right now, I'm definitely leaning more so myself because we may take live callers tonight, depending on the game outcome, so be on the lookout for that. Definitely would love to do that for you all. Again, we'll be live tomorrow as well. We may bring Pat on for tomorrow's show, depending on the game, but we'll see what happens there. Rest assured, we will have coverage tonight. Tomorrow, we will, of course, have coverage all weekend long for the most part in the Mets' next series, because after they got the New York Yankees, they have one more 3-game stand before they go back on the road, and that's going to be against the Houston Astros, who have finally turned things on and have started to play great baseball, unfortunately. The Astros have won 5 straight games. They took care of business against the Orioles with ease, too, which was very impressive. Not looking forward to that Astros matchup, but I am looking forward to the Mets being home for it and having pitching matchups on their side to a degree, with Luis Severino being in that mix. Kristen Scott will hopefully be called up, with them expected to do the 6-man starting this Thursday. So yeah, looking forward to that all, to say the least. Waldo in the chat says, Wardy, good question. Can you send down a player to AAA, a tenured player like McNeil or Stewart? Yes. So DJ Stewart still has a minor league option on his contract. So the Mets can send him down one more time and make sure that he is not available to be picked up through the waiver wire by an opposing team. Jeff McNeil, however, would be DFA'd outright. So if McNeil is DFA'd, any team will have the pleasure to pick him up, but no team will pick up Jeff McNeil because no one wants his contract. So if McNeil is DFA'd, he will be outright sent to AAA unless he requests his release from the organization, which he also has the right to do so given his tenure and how long he's been with the Mets. So that's something that I would foresee to happen. It's like, I really can't see a world where if the Mets DFA Jeff McNeil, he would stay in the org. I think he would be outright released, and they would part ways, and that would be that with Jeff's time in a New York Metropolitan uniform. So that, I hope that answered that your question for you. Let's see. Studio says, Wardy, do you think that Acuna's little brother will make it to the bigs? Let's see. With how much McNeil's been struggling. That's fine. Yeah, I do think Acuna will be with in the bigs sometime this season, unless someone like, again, Jose Iglesias just plays so well in that immediate standing for Jeff McNeil, where he's getting more time and reps at second base. And he has been a contact king still. And if he's playing, the way the Mets want him to play, definitely think there's a world where he stays there as well. But Acuna, rest assured, I do think will have an impact. To what degree, we'll find out. But I do think that he will certainly be called up to the Mets by some point this season. We're halfway to 100 likes, everybody. Thank you all so much for that. Continue to smash a like and subscribe on. Greatly appreciate everybody. We are going to wrap up the live show here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. But before I do, because we, of course, got to get ready for tonight's big game. But before I do, everybody, I just got to ask, if you have any specific questions regarding this matchup, please let me know. I'm really not only excited, but I'm just damn curious to see the JD Davis matchup. Like, let's just take a moment to appreciate the battle between the former Yanks and the former Mets in this whole series, right? For the Yankees, you have right now JD Davis, you have Phil Bickford, you have Michael Tonkin, who's been doing great in the bullpen. You have Dennis Santana, who has not been doing good. I don't even know if he's actively in their bullpen. He probably isn't. You, of course, have Luis Rojas at third base. I'm trying to think if outside of JD Davis, if I'm missing anyone else. For the Mets, we, of course, have Luis Severino. We have Adam Ottavino, Harrison Bader, Ben Gamel. Trying to think of more guys that are currently on the Mets that were former Yankees as well. Anyone else that kind of like stands out? Luis Torrens, Carlos Mendoza. It's really interesting when you think about it. There's a decent group. There's like over 10 people collectively that have been in both of these organizations as they're going to match up. So Subway Series is always a fun, exciting time. I wish I could have been there at Citi Field for this matchup because it's always electric. And with the Mets playing great ball right now, you cannot go wrong. Unfortunately cannot, but it's for a great reason. On dad duty at the moment. And hey, I'm just grateful right now to say that, I have an amazing girlfriend who has been doing a tremendous job on not keeping track, but, taking an awesome job, taking care of our beloved newborn son for the times that I'm working especially. So love her to death and cannot thank her enough. And very excited, though, to be hitting games at Citi Field with you all again soon. My first games will probably hit again at Citi Field if I'm a betting man, will be in July. Barring any changes, because, we're just a week away from July already, so we're going to get there soon. When's the Wardy clothing line coming out, Ricky? Long overdue, my friend. We do need to get that rolling, though. That is 100% true. Even just stuff with my logo on it, it's going to be a lot of fun. I want stuff embroider with my logo, too, because I think you guys would like that on a hat or like a polo. That'd be pretty cool. Yes, Yeet. One usually leads to the other, my friend. Almighty says, I pulled out my Mets jersey from the closet after not wearing it for 7 years. Surprisingly, it still fits, rocking the Syndergaard. Thor, if only he was still rocking himself as an electric right-hander the way he certainly isn't now, 7 years later. Happy to hear that you have the jersey, though. It's all well kept, my man. I hope you have a great time watching tonight's game. Let's see here in the chat. Anyone else got anything for me? Yeah, on the lineup. Good. I'm glad you liked the lineup. Yeah, that's a final thing. Before we wrap up the show, because I didn't even say that yet, and Hines, I appreciate that. Everybody, just quickly spam and give me a yay or a nay in the live chat for people on replay on how you feel about the Mets lineup tonight. Give me a yay, a thumbs up, a yay, or give me a nay, a thumbs down. Whatever you want to go with, throw in the chat. Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you all so much in advance for doing so as the Metropolitans get set to kick off their 2-game homestand, a 5-game homestand, I should say, but a 2-game set beginning tonight against the Bronx Bombers here in Flushing, Queens. Wardy, the Bunnies are fantastic. Yes, they are. They're doing great. I'm looking at them both right now, as a matter of fact. And you know what I really want to do, actually? I think I'm going to do it because I can. Just briefly, because it's been long overdue, everybody. Let me brief. My room is kind of a mess. Again, I'm a new father now, so bear that in mind. But I do have the 2 bunnies. If you guys could actually go see right there. There are the bunnies. So when anyone asks, how are the bunnies doing? Where are they? What are they doing? That's the bunnies. There's Gigi on the left. That's up top. On the right is Stormy, but she's kind of in an angle that's hard to see at the moment. But yes, that's Gigi and that is Stormy. I get asked about them all the time because I used to show them in my content a lot. Haven't really since the 2021 season because I don't do watch parties nearly as often because unfortunately they're just not they're just really difficult to do when wanting to enjoy the broadcast and then to try to swing a post game on top of it. Not an easy thing to do consistently, but we will do them a couple times this season more than likely, as long as the Mets continue to play great baseball. But that's Gigi and that's Stormy. So there you guys go in regards to that. Now here we go. Let's get this all set up and proper. And there we go. That was actually a nice little transition. Shout out to the webcam for, not giving me a hard time there. All right, we got a lot of yays in the chat. We got some nays. We got some yays minus McNeil. I think all the nays are just ones talking about McNeil, as a matter of fact. Need to get the Schmuck shirt, I know. Yes, I haven't been working with that network anymore because they were the ones that were making the merch for us. That's why it says Believe in Queens on the side. Rest in peace to the best, without question, the best Mets podcast to ever come from that network, and they know that. But we had to switch things up and do the things that we wanted to do, and that's why we went down the route that we did. But no loss, everybody. I think that's going to wrap up the live show. So again, I want to thank you all so much for watching. We will be back live, of course, right after the conclusion of tonight's game. We got the highlights for you. We're going to get our immediate reaction. We're going to break down the game inning by inning. And again, we also may get to some of your callers, as long as Dad Duty isn't calling too hard for me later on this evening. So until then, folks, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And as always, this is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby.